You know that person. They still meet the same 2 or 3 people they've known since their 20s. Same coffee shop, maybe. Same table if they can get it. You've seen them laugh at something nobody else in the room would understand. An inside reference that's been running for 15 years. The kind of thing that doesn't need explaining because it never needed explaining. Meanwhile, everybody around them is cycling through new connections every few years, building networks, adding contacts, following people they've never met, collecting friendships like notifications that disappear by morning. And here's what's interesting. Psychology says keeping the same handful of friends for 30 years has very little to do with being lucky with people. Something else is happening. Something that took decades to build and can't be shortcut or downloaded. And once you understand what it actually is, you start to see these people very differently. First reason, they made peace with being known completely. There's a particular kind of discomfort that comes with being fully seen by another person. Not the highlights, not the version you show at work or post online. The actual version. The one that's embarrassing sometimes, that has bad habits, that made choices they're not proud of. Most friendships quietly stall at a surface level because both people sense that going deeper means being vulnerable, and vulnerability feels like risk. Psychologists who study long-term relationships have found that the friendships that last decades are almost always the ones where both people crossed that line early, where the real version of each person got shown, got accepted, and the relationship survived it. After that, the friendship becomes almost unbreakable, because you're no longer performing for each other. That performance exhaustion, the kind that drives so many people towards social media and away from real connection, simply doesn't exist between them anymore. Second reason. They chose depth over volume at a time when volume was winning. Think about the last 10 years. Every platform, every app, every professional advice column told you to network more, connect more, expand your circle, grow your audience. The pressure to accumulate relationships is real and it's everywhere. The person who quietly ignored all of that and kept investing in 3 people instead of 300 wasn't being antisocial. They were making a different calculation. Researchers who study social connection have noted that the quality of a small number of close relationships predicts long-term happiness far more reliably than the size of a person's social network. These people understood that intuitively, maybe not consciously, but they acted on it. Every hour they didn't spend chasing new connections was an hour spent deepening the ones they already had. Third reason. They showed up when it was inconvenient. 30 years of friendship doesn't survive on good intentions. It survives on presence. On the Tuesday night phone call, when something fell apart. On the drive across town when it wasn't convenient. On the consistent, quiet, unglamorous act of being there when showing up required something. Research on trust and long-term bonds consistently shows that trust isn't built in big dramatic moments. It's built in small repeated ones. The person who still has the same friends after 30 years has a long, invisible history of those small moments stacked on top of each other. That history is the friendship, not the memories of good times, though those exist too. The history of choosing to show up when it would have been easier not to. Fourth reason. They let the friendship change without letting it end. This one is subtle, but it might be the most important. People change, dramatically sometimes. The person you were at 25 is not who you are at 55. Beliefs shift. Priorities change. Life takes people in directions nobody planned. Most friendships don't survive that kind of change because one or both people make an unconscious decision that the gap has become too wide. People who study long-term friendship often point out that the friendships that make it to 3 decades aren't the ones that stayed the same. They're the ones that renegotiated quietly, again and again, finding new versions of each other worth staying connected to. That flexibility, that willingness to let the relationship evolve rather than mourn what it used to be, is a skill most people never develop. Now, of course, not everyone who has kept the same friends for 30 years did it through wisdom or emotional depth. Some people stayed in long friendships out of habit, geography, or simply because neither person made the effort to move on. Not every decades-long friendship is healthy or mutual. Longevity alone doesn't make a friendship meaningful. This isn't about celebrating duration. It's about understanding what's behind the friendships where the duration actually meant something to both people involved. Fifth reason. They knew how to repair instead of walk away. Every long friendship hits a wall eventually. A misunderstanding that went too far. A year where one person wasn't available. A disagreement that felt in the moment like it might be the end. The person who still has those same friends didn't avoid those walls. They learned how to get through them. There's a well-known pattern in conflict research where the people who maintain the longest relationships aren't the ones who fight the least. They're the ones who learned that the relationship is worth the discomfort of repair. That's not a small thing. In a world where unfollowing someone is faster and easier than having a hard conversation, the choice to repair is increasingly rare. Sixth reason. They gave the friendship time to become irreplaceable. Relationships compound. A friendship of 30 years isn't 3 times stronger than a friendship of 10. It's categorically different. Those who look closely at long-term social bonds tend to find that after a certain number of shared years, the friendship stops being something you maintain and becomes something you carry. It's woven into how you understand yourself, into your history, into the stories that explain who you are, into a private language only the two of you speak fluently. That kind of bond can't be rushed or replicated quickly, no matter how much effort you pour into a new friendship at the start. Time is the one ingredient that simply cannot be substituted. The person who still has those same 3 friends stayed long enough for the relationship to cross that line, to become something that couldn't be easily replaced because nothing quite like it existed anywhere else. Seventh reason. They treated loyalty as a value, not just a feeling. Loyalty sounds old-fashioned in a culture that celebrates personal growth, reinvention and moving on. But for the person who still has the same friends after 30 years, loyalty was never a feeling that came and went. It was a decision they made early and renewed quietly over time. It's a pattern researchers keep coming back to in studies on long-term human connection. The people who maintain deep bonds across decades tend to hold a personal belief that relationships are worth protecting even when they cost something. Not because the friendship is perfect, because walking away from something real is a cost they were never willing to pay easily. Sometimes it's the courage to be fully known. Sometimes it's choosing depth when the world was selling volume. Sometimes it's showing up on the inconvenient days. Sometimes it's letting the friendship change without letting it die. Sometimes it's learning to repair instead of disappear. Sometimes it's giving the relationship enough years to become irreplaceable. Sometimes it's just deciding, quietly, that loyalty is worth more than convenience. Think about the friendships in your own life that have lasted the longest. What did those friendships survive that others didn't? And what do you think kept them alive when everything around you was changing?